I'm Christopher German for KCTV News for Monday, November 3rd, 2025. For tonight's broadcast, the stories we're following for you. The Trump administration confirmed on Monday that it will partially fund the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program for November. And Klamath Water Users Association is calling for the celebration of the newly arrived salmon to be tempered by the recognition that essential commitments made to local farmers and ranchers have not yet been fulfilled. And light showers will continue into the night tonight across the region, gradually dwindling in coverage by the morning, while gusty winds will settle in late in the evening. Now make sure you tune in every morning for weather from the Skywatch Weather Center, with weather from the Klamath Basin for the Klamath Basin. And tonight's news is brought to you by whoever suggested that businesses grow in a predictable way never had a business in Klamath County. Hanging a shingle out to sell a product or service comes with its own unique sets of challenges here in the basin. If it's not the weather, it's the fires. If it's not the fires, it's the tourists. And if it's not the tourists, it's something else that makes earning a profit hard here in the basin. At KCTV, we want to make it easy for you to find customers with what we're calling the Business Growth Special for $100. We will create a video to run on KCTV and air it for a full month on our television network. It's our way of driving customers to your door while growing the community of Klamath County. It's our way of driving customers to your door while growing the community of Klamath County, one business at a time. Call 541-880-4913 or email info@klamathcommunity.tv today to get started. Our top story. The Trump administration confirmed on Monday that it will partially fund the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the SNAP program, for November, a decision made under orders from federal courts. The administration will use the program's contingency fund, which contains approximately $5.2 billion, to provide the reduced payments. This action follows separate rulings on Friday by federal judges in Rhode Island and Massachusetts, which mandated the government use those reserves to prevent a complete suspension of the food aid. SNAP costs around $8 billion to $9 billion per month nationally. Since the $5.2 billion contingency fund is insufficient to cover the full cost, the benefits for the nearly 42 million recipients will be reduced. The precise amount each beneficiary will receive is currently unclear, as states will need to recalculate benefits based on the available federal funds. The typical average monthly benefit is about $190 per person. U.S. District Judge John J. McConnell Jr. in Rhode Island set the payment deadlines. If the government had chosen the full funding, payments were required by the end of the day Monday. Since the administration chose the partial version, which involves recalculating benefits, the government must issue the funds by Wednesday. However, the judge and experts caution that the actual payments may not appear on the beneficiary's debit cards, EBT cards, that quickly. The multi-step process involving the federal and state agencies, along with vendors, can take up to 2 weeks in some states, meaning delays in aid are certain. The administration decision comes amid a federal government shutdown, which had led the U.S. Department of Agriculture to previously announce that November benefits would be frozen entirely. In response, many states have been making preparations to provide or expedite funding to food banks or setting up systems to reload cards using state taxpayer dollars. And federal Judge Karen J. Immergut has once again paused the deployment of National Guard by granting a preliminary injunction to the plaintiffs, the state of Oregon and the city of Portland, and the state of California. This injunction stops the deployment until Friday. Immergut stated that she needs the week to thoroughly review the over 750 exhibits and post-trial briefings that were recently filed, emphasizing that the interest of justice requires that the court complete a thorough review of the exhibits and trial transcripts. The court found that the plaintiffs will likely succeed on the merits of the claim, and will suffer irreparable harm without the injunction. And the pausing of the deployment is in the public's best interest. In her ruling on Sunday evening, Judge Immergut indicated that the president failed to demonstrate the necessity of troop deployment in the face of an emergency, describing instances of unlawful behavior outside the ICE facilities in South Portland as sporadic. Immergut explicitly stated that there is no credible evidence that during the approximately 2 months before the president's federalization order, protests grew out of control of involved more than isolated or sporadic instances of violent conduct that resulted in no serious injury to federal personnel. She characterized the protests between June 15th and September 27th as generally uneventful and asserted that the local and federal law enforcement were capable of managing the unlawful behavior that did occur. Responding to the Trump administration's claim that protesters impeded federal officers by blocking the driveway, the judge held that the federal law enforcement officers could still clear the driveway. Additionally, she noted that the ICE's ability to temporarily relocate after property damage further showed that their ability to perform their duties was not impeded. Judge Immergut also concluded that the protests outside the ICE facilities in South Portland did not constitute a rebellion, highlighting the disagreement between the plaintiff and the defendants on the definition of a rebellion. And the rapid return of Chinook salmon to areas above the former lower Klamath River dam sites has captured widespread attention, a remarkable milestone celebrated by dam removal advocates. However, the Klamath Water Users Association is calling for this marvel to be tempered by the recognition that essential commitments made to local farmers and ranchers have not yet been fulfilled. The KWUA, which has represented family farmers and ranchers of the Klamath Project since 1953, stated that while the dam removal has successfully opened hundreds of miles of habitat as predicted, promises made nearly a decade ago under the Klamath Power and Facilities Agreement have been ignored for too long. These agreements were intended to prevent negative regulatory impacts on rural communities. For nearly 2 decades, advocates for dam removal assured the agricultural community that the presence of salmon in their neighborhood would not result in new regulatory burdens. These commitments were formally established in the 2010 Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement and subsequently restated in the 2016 KPFA. KWUA, a key party to the KBRA, that remained neutral on dam removal, has repeatedly urged that these issues be addressed and resolved before the dams were out. According to the KWUA Executive Director Elizabeth Nielsen and Board President Scott Seuss, that has not occurred, and agencies and other parties maintained a relentless focus on dam removal and water disputes. The KPFA contains a core commitment stating that the parties commit to take every reasonable and legally permissible step to avoid or minimize any adverse impact in the form of new regulation or other legal or funding obligations that might occur to the users of the water and the land associated with the Klamath Reclamation Project, from introduction or reintroduction of aquatic species to currently unoccupied habitats or areas, or from habitat restoration activities. Crucially, the KPFA also refers to non-reimbursable construction of facilities to prevent fish entrainment, namely fish screens at diversion facilities to restore connectivity for fish while maintaining the viability of the project's infrastructure and agricultural legacy. With reports of Chinook salmon already entering project canals, KWUA insists that the primary focus must now shift to the immediate installation of these fish screens to protect both migrating fish and irrigation infrastructure. Klamath Drainage District, a KWA member, has been advancing members to advancing fish screen installation in coordination with the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and funding from the Bureau of Reclamation, but administration hurdles have slowed the process. KWUA asserts that irrigators and member districts have a long history of fighting for stability and practical solutions in the Klamath Basin through negotiation and advocacy. Now, KWA is calling on state and federal partners to fulfill the KPFA commitments immediately emphasizing that implementing these measures in the shared interest of all parties and stakeholders throughout the basin. And Oregon's jobless rate officially hit 5.0% in August, marking the highest point since the pandemic began. However, the economic picture since that has been clouded by the federal government shutdown that started on October 1st, which has halted the collection of and reporting of monthly state-by-state employment data, including the critical unemployment rate figures. This data blackout on jobs numbers will persist until Congress authorizes funding to resume the necessary tracking. Despite the lack of official monthly employment statistics, the information still being collected by state and federal governments point to an increasingly discouraging environment for Oregon's job market. Newly filed unemployment claims are notably on the rise, increasing by 7.8% so far this year to reach the highest level since 2021. Through the middle of October, the state had processed nearly 190,000 new jobless claims, which is approximately 14,000 more than were filed during the same period in the previous year. Further insight into pre-shutdown trends comes from the quarterly Census of Employment and Wages data through the second quarter of 2025, which indicated a total loss of 3,800 jobs year over year. This was driven by the private sector, which lost 11,100 jobs, including a sharp decline in manufacturing, while growth in sectors like healthcare and local government has provided some offset. The overall momentum of the labor market appears to be weakening. The impact of the government shutdown itself is also being felt, particularly in the state's rural counties, where a higher share of the local workforce is employed by federal agencies and is now facing missed paychecks. And the approval of the conditional and commercial use permits for Diamond Solar LLC's 1,560-acre project marks a significant step for the largest solar development in Klamath County history. The project, which will be a 200-megawatt generating facility with 200 megawatts of on-site battery storage, is expected to generate enough electricity to power an estimated 40,000 homes each year. The battery storage component will be crucial in allowing electricity to be offloaded onto the Pacific Core and grid via existing Chiloquin transmission line, even when the sun is not shining. A major benefit to the county will be an expected annual generation between $2 million and $3 million in tax revenue. This steady stream of income is a common feature of utility-scale solar projects, which provide reliable property tax income to fund schools, emergency services, and other local infrastructure. A key factor in the Klamath County Planning Commission's approval involved an exception to state policy on forestry zone lands. This was made easier because of Shanda Asset Management, a global investment group that is also one of the largest timberland owners in North America. It's the owner of the 12,000-acre tax lot and explicitly supports the project. The county planner noted that the timber set to be removed was of low value, easing the transition of this forestry zone land. Shanda, whose natural resource portfolio includes approximately 700,000 acres of timberland, predominantly in Oregon and Canada, has an office in Sun River, Oregon, for its natural resource management. The developer, Diamond Solar LLC, is a subsidiary of its parent company, Invenergy. Invenergy is a leading sustainable energy solutions company with extensive experience, having developed 59 projects nationally, generating 8.5 gigawatts of power. The Klamath County project will be the first in the Pacific Northwest to include energy storage, a technology in which they have significant expertise through projects across the country, particularly in Arizona, where they have commissioned numerous battery storage facilities. The county planner, Justin Throne, praised the permit application as an exceptional document, citing 56 separate written findings with substantial evidence and effective cooperation with relevant agencies, including the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And residents within the Rocky Point Fire and EMS District in Klamath County will vote on a single measure in a special election tomorrow on Tuesday, November 4th. The measure proposes a property tax of 82 cents per $1,000 of assessed value for 5 years, beginning in fiscal year 2026-2027 to enhance funding for fire and EMS services. If passed, district residents could see their property taxes increase by more than 3%. This isn't the first time the Rocky Point Fire and EMS District has sought this funding. Similar tax measures have been rejected twice before by narrow margins. Measure 18-133 was voted down in 93 to 77 in May of 2024, and Measure 18-140 was defeated 86-80 in May of 2025. According to measure notices, the district faces several service reductions without these additional funds, as its permanent tax rate has not been increased since the early 1970s and is insufficient to maintain current service levels. The proposed tax increase is estimated to provide the district with a budget of $105,410 for fiscal year 2026-2027, allowing it to continue essential services, including emergency medical response. The district clarified on its Facebook page that the property owners will be taxed on the lesser of the property's real market value or total assessed value. For example, a property with $247,140 total assessed value would incur an additional $202.65 in fire and EMS taxes. If the measure passes, to ensure their votes are counted, Oregon voters must return their signed ballot envelopes to the ballot box or county elections office by 8 p.m. on November 4th to ensure their ballot receives a postmark by the same date. Due to a recent changes by the U.S. Postal Service in August of 2024, Secretary of State Tobias Reed has advised voters living more than 50 miles from the Portland UPS Processing Center to use drop boxes rather than relying on mail for ballot returns close to the election. And the city of Chiloquin is extending an invitation to all residents to attend the next Chiloquin Connects Community Outreach event. This important gathering will take place on Thursday, November 6th from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. at the Chiloquin Community Center. Chiloquin Connects serves as a vital platform for city leaders, community partners, and residents to come together and share updates, gather essential feedback, and celebrate the progress occurring across the community. Attendees can look forward to interactive tables, informative presentations, and multiple opportunities to ask questions and get involved in local projects. This fall's event will highlight several essential initiatives shaping Chiloquin's future. The Oregon Department of Transportation will present updated maps and details on the Great Streets Project, explaining how planned improvements to Oregon 422 and Oregon 422 South Choctaw Street will significantly enhance safety for walking, biking, driving, and public transit. Residents will also receive the latest on key City of Chiloquin updates, including the new water well, and smart water meter projects, the ongoing wastewater project, and the status of the peer grant-funded Public Works building. Community participation is highly encouraged through feedback opportunities, where residents can share ideas and input for the upcoming 2026 Centennial Celebration, the new 5-year city strategic plan, and proposed enhancements to Chiloquin's Central Park. Chiloquin Visions in Progress will be on hand to discuss ongoing volunteer and nonprofit programs supporting the community, including their recently awarded Main Street Revitalization Grant aimed at restoring the historic Chiloquin Hotel. A number of local partners will also be present. Representatives from Chiloquin Fire and Rescue will provide information on their wildfire initiative, while Sage Credit Union, formerly Pacific Crest Federal Credit Union, and Cascade Health Alliance will share details about their rebranding, benefits, and community services. Additional representatives from Klamath County Public Health, Hunter Communications, and the Klamath Tribe's Planning Department are scheduled to attend. The event is open to the public, and all residents are strongly encouraged to attend and participate in shaping their community's future. And Polly Banderas will be performing at the Garage Tap House in Klamath Falls on November 8th from 5:30 to 9:30 p.m. The Garage Tap House is located at 603 South 6th Street in Klamath Falls. Polly Banderas is a musician known for creating looping soundscapes that seamlessly blend alternative, soul, rock, and pop genres imbued with distinct singer-songwriter sensibility. Their performances are entirely improvised, featuring live vocals, saxophone, drum loops, and guitar riffs, all crafted in the moment to resonate with the atmosphere of the space. The artist's musical journey began at the age of 11, sparked by an inspiring encounter with a tenor sax player in the London Underground. Since then, Polly Banderas has accumulated extensive experiences, including national and international tours. They've graced the stages at notable venues such as the Showbox, El Corazon, SeaTac Airport, the Crocodile, Numos, Barboza, the Substation, Victory Studios, the Funhouse, and even CenturyLink Field during a Seahawks game. Additionally, Polly Banderas has been featured on the television series Band in Seattle, and the stage name Polly Banderas reflects the artist's deep affection for and involvement in the many bands they have had the privileges to be part of throughout their musical career. Now let's take some time for some weather now, shall we? Light showers will continue into the night across the region, gradually dwindling in coverage by the morning, while gusty winds will settle in late in the night. Conditions will remain rather breezy, especially within the Shasta Valley. Skies will be mostly cloudy. Overnight lows are expected to be milder than the previous nights. Temperatures in the basin will cool only to the 30s. The rest of the week will continue to be characterized by wet and windy weather. Tuesday will be cloudy and rainy with widespread precipitation impacting the region. South and southeast winds are expected to increase into the afternoon, bringing the possibility of some damaging wind gusts, particularly for coastal areas and the Shasta Valley and the east side. As we transition from Tuesday night into Wednesday, heavier rainfall will push into the region, making for a very wet and windy day. Snow levels will remain quite high throughout the first part of the week, but they are forecast to come down to about 6,000 feet by Thursday morning. There will be a brief respite as the region catches a little weather break on Thursday morning. However, the next storm system is already on its way, poised to bring in rain and higher elevation snow later Thursday into Friday. Looking ahead, the next weekend is currently looking pretty dry. So tune in and get your views counted only at KCTV, and make sure you hit that subscribe button to KCTV on your favorite platforms. And make sure you log on to klamathcommunity.tv for the latest news, weather, and lifestyle news, including these daily stories posted for you, and you'll find them exclusively at the KCTV news page. So for KCTV News, I'm Christopher German. It's Monday. We're starting up kind of a wet week, but we'll get through it somehow, and we'll do the best we can. That's what all anybody can ask us to do. Remember, tomorrow's Election Day, and while we don't have any special elections happening here in Klamath Falls, Rocky Point has a big thing going on, and they're trying to fund their fire and EMS up there, and like I said in the story, I mean, they haven't had a fee increase since the 1970s. So I'm in the court of the fire and EMS. I think they need the funding, and they've had a rough year. They lost their doctor. They've had all kinds of trials and tribulations, but they're still protecting the people of Rocky Point and Lake of the Woods and all the other areas out there. So help support them if you could. If you could vote in favor of that, that would be amazing. And what else do we have? I don't think we have much else going on this week. It was kind of a busy news weekend, not terribly bad, but not terribly quiet either. So we included everything in that happened all weekend long in this newscast. So I hope you appreciate that, and hope you enjoyed the newscast that we did for you this evening. And we'll see you guys again tomorrow for Tuesday. Thank you for watching. God bless. Good night. And we'll see you guys again on Tuesday. I'm Christopher German in the KCTV News Center, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow.